I'm Michael Richardson, founder and creator of Listen, Speak and Learn, and you're watching Gifted54. My name is Michael Richardson. I was born in the UK to Ghanaian parents. Started a life of an IT and sort of progressed to creating Listen, Speak and Learn. I became an entrepreneur because I saw my wife, who's my wife now, working on her own business, and she's always worked for herself. And she managed a salon for 10 years, and I like the flexibility and the ability to take control of a particular project or a particular company. So I came from a 9-to-5 sort of background, but that life of an entrepreneur sort of suited me. I thought I liked it. My struggle as an entrepreneur has really been time, trying to balance work with life at home and also spending time on the passion, which is the project Listen, Speak and Learn. The journey of Listen, Speak and Learn, it's been a long one, and I'll consider it to be a lifelong journey. Although it's only actively coming to fruition in the last couple of years, it started probably from when I was born. Again, like I said before, I was born to Ghanaian parents in the UK. When I was quite young, we moved back to Ghana as a family, and we lived there for 3 or 4 years. When we got there, my cousins had come round for the day, and they were talking and joking, and he was looking at me to translate. So he kept on asking me, what they're saying. So there I was, I couldn't speak my native tongue very well. I could get the gist of the conversation, so I would listen to it, translate it in my head. About 2 seconds later, I'll tell him what it was in English. And so on, the conversation was going and I was piecing together what was being said. There became a particular point where they said something really funny. And I was pondering, should I sit there and say nothing and just smile, what I normally do because I wasn't fluent in the language? Should I try to say it in my native tongue and no, it'll probably sound strange? Or should I say it in English? And I decided to say it in English. And on that occasion, it was the wrong thing to do, because they basically looked at me and said, in our native tongue, we don't speak English here. And that really made me feel like an outsider. I felt like, wow, in my hometown, at my family's house, I didn't belong. But we have the same blood flowing through our veins. And that's where my journey on language discovery really started. I came back to the UK, fast forward a few years, got married, our first child was on the way. And we said it as one of the things in our house that we wanted our children to know where they came from. And part of that was to teach them our native tongue. So I started to look for resources to help people, or primarily my children, to learn our native tongue, and I couldn't find any. So I started to film them and started on a journey which brought me to a point that I thought, you know what, if it's benefiting my son so much, I need to make it available to others. And that's where Listen, Speak and Learn started. Listen, Speak and Learn is a community of friends who come together to create resources. So I'm partnering at the moment with the cultural group, the CIC, who also have the Ghanaian language school. And from there, we use resources to help create. We partner together to create resources for future editions. What we're looking for in the future for Listen, Speak and Learn is to make it available not only to a canned tree. Initially, a canned tree was a direct need for myself and for the African community. But as I've spoken to others living in the diaspora, especially in London, I found that this is across the board in the Nigerian communities, in the Kenyan communities, in the Zimbabwean communities, and other communities. So really our aim is to make sure we can produce resources in other languages to really bolster the future generations. And as I started creating these short videos, I found that my children were really enjoying them. And my wife said to me one day, well, if your children can benefit so much, why don't you make it more accessible to other people? So from there, I just started to create a formal structure to Listen, Speak and Learn. And from there, one video led to another. I looked at what worked with my son and what he really enjoyed, and I found that he enjoyed the songs. So we made some songs, and we translated common songs known in English, head, shoulders, knees and toes, and we translated them into Tree. So as he was learning traditional English or Anglo-Saxon nursery rhymes, he was also learning the words of Tree. And anytime he would hear the tune, he would come and want to learn. As it developed, I started to create formal structures and got into contact with teachers and instructors who really knew the language very well, to ensure that everything I was doing was according to the right standards or according to the formal structures of the language. And from there, it just sort of took off. And I've always had a bit of a history in arts and video making, so I just applied those skills to it. What are my plans for Listen, Speak and Learn? Well, really just to get the message out there that your culture and your history and your heritage counts. It matters. It creates a big parts of your character and your being. And really just to make sure that people hold on to their culture, because regardless where you go in the world, it's part of you. It tells that story. And really for Listen, Speak and Learn to become a conduit or a tool to help people teach their children so that they can have that multi-generational understanding of who they are. There are some things that parents can do to help aid or to detract children or second generations from learning about the culture. Some things are consciously done and some things are subconsciously done. And normally the easiest way of doing it is to make it interesting and to make it intriguing. Just speaking and talking about the culture. Sometimes speaking about the language and how certain words came to being can make it interesting. A lot of things are told in drama and in dance. In African culture, a lot of things are said in proverbs. And sometimes making those proverbs relevant to things that they're experiencing in day-to-day life brings intrigue. There's a saying in Tree where they say, "Koto enwo anuma," which is a crab would never give birth to a bird. And from that, you start to tie it into other things. Children, young children in particular, like songs and music. And African culture in particular is rich when it comes to songs and music. Okay, so at the moment, Listen, Speak and Learn Tree is completed. We're currently just finishing volume 2, and we're looking to work on other languages as well. Yoruba, Swahili, and other native African languages. So you can find us at www.listenspeaklearn.com and check us out. We now have some resources which are online and streamable to mobile devices, and we have a short tip section which helps people who want to learn languages as adults, and also how parents can teach their children to learn an African language. The best advice I ever got was, I would say, work hard. Work hard and try to fulfill your potential. Always try to do what you can do to your best. The best advice I would give, I guess it depends on your situation. If you have children or of African descent or anywhere else in the world, I would really strongly recommend that you teach your children your heritage and your culture through your language, through play, and just allow them to identify with the culture and with who they are, because ultimately it's part of them. And it tells that journey through the generations that led them to where they are today.